What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. I hope you liked the first video that we dropped on the trade reviews that we had on NASDAQ and US30. And one thing I'm happy about is that the thought process turned out to be right, and everything that we did actually worked out and made sense. So now this will be more of like a continuation on top of the one that we did, but this is actually forecasting. We're also forecasting into the new quarter, the new month, and the new trading week. So let's see what NAS has for us from here. We're going to literally start all the way from the monthly time frame because we are doing everything, okay? And from here, what we can simply deduce already is that we had this as the previous high that was created back in 2021, which was a 16K, and price broke above and it's playing above the previous all-time high over here, so we can clearly see that. So I believe that's all we can pick up from the monthly, and now we can dive down to the weekly and see what the weekly holds for us, right? So when we get on the weekly, what we can clearly see was this value area over here where we had this clear double top, right? And we can also just mark this over here as our like our previous value area now turned into inflection point because we are playing out of it. So we're just gonna mark it just like collect more confluence and data in our favor, and basic double top double bottom theory, the neckline, there's it over there. Those are the two tops, right? So let's move down to the daily, right, just to see clearly what's going on here, because there are inflection points which we did play around as price was doing this, right? And before we move down, what we can also note is this sort of like, we can call it an inflection point because it's a point where you might look to exit as you have been trading within this A to B run. Okay, so now I believe we have access to move down to the daily as we are also applying our doorway system, right? Remember I just did like a short revision back on mechanics, just to like solidify some concepts. Also, the thought processing behind some trades and what Mark thinks as he's analyzing, So these are the inflection points that I was referring to that we played around. You would have had to mark them all until the last one in the run, which was this one, okay, of which you can see that's where, the bigger retracement started coming in, the deeper pullbacks, right? So that's what we have from the daily, and what we can also see is that we are playing within this 90% completion of this run, sort of like that over there, right? So what I'm already insinuating now as like, we are within this run over here. Obviously, as you can see, we have been impulsing to the downside for quite some time now, a couple of days. And, from theory, what we expect after this is a correction large enough to accommodate the impulse, right? And one other thing that we also do is make sure that it's still playing below 50% of the whole entire run, just so we keep that risk mitigated. So if we put this directly at the current low, even though yes, this is still fresh, it doesn't have enough weight yet, I think we can say that, right, where we might still see some sort of like playing around over here before we can move to the upside, right? So that's what now leads us into this, okay, of which you can also see from the daily, where if you're reading price like that, you can see that we tapped into this back end of the structure over here, and that's why we had the sell-off. So that could have also been another confluence for you to confirm what happened here. So let's move down to the 4 hour, and break down everything as we form our trade idea. And we can just push this back to kind of keep our price clear. Also this 2 and also the neckline, and what we can see is that besides that back end, price had also left another clue here where we had a volume belt area over there and price sold off. So we did expect price to do something here, of which it did. As you can see, this is where we broke above and back below structure, which is what we usually look for before a huge run. This doesn't, well, necessarily require you to actually predict it. You don't even have the volume or capacity to cause this move, as Mark says, right? So you wait for the confirmation move to come in back into structure. This was your move to the downside, right? So now looking at that, we could also still be playing this move where we could be now actually forming a larger continuation to move to the downside. We're not, well, literally retracing all the way back up to there. So what I'm gonna do also is still also apply that 50% rule just to maintain that, well, arena that I'm playing within, to make sure that you know, right? We are still within a validated area where our continuations can play to the downside. So as I am insinuating, we could have this over here where maybe this does happen, and that actually now becomes our value area over there, sort of inflection point, as we had this sharp pullback move over here. And it could be more of like a two-touch play, and then we get the insurance, then we move to the downside. This would actually make sense in terms of sequencing, right? So we can also move down to the daily. We can also mark this as it was also some sort of like inflection point that we were looking at, as we had this near miss towards this area and we expected price to eventually fall. So we could also have this as a sort of potential back end that might come into the future for us to look into, right? So also adding on to that idea where we could have a deeper pullback, we can see that we could be building into this. So if you're not that advanced with Falcon, right, I might be confusing you when I'm like actually covering everything all at once, and this is what I go through every time when I actually have to come down to a trade idea. So carrying on without wasting more time, as I see we're already 7 minutes in, this would be your first touch, this would be your second touch, and you'd be anticipating a third here where you could possibly move down. And we do have some access to also come back and do this and tap into that value area, which we see it's a volume build area actually, because if I just pull this down a bit, you can see that we had this sort of push over here, we built the volume and we pushed down. So we have to watch out for this area over there. Now with that out of the way, we could also mark this. Okay, so now all we're doing is forecasting. We don't actually have a trade yet. We just looking at all the possible variables, scenarios actually that could play out in the market, right? So now we can also move down to the 1 hour. We have access to the 1 hour now. And there's that price that we actually played around. Yes, we did slightly move down. You could have run away with like 2%, 3%, call it whatever. But point is, the move didn't actually have enough volume to move all the way to this point as we anticipated. So now carrying on, we can just slightly push this back in to show that price broke back above the structure, and what could be anticipated as of now is this sort of play over here where we do get the continuation to sort of maybe play some short-term moves to the upside, or this is where we actually get that access to play the whole entire run to all the upside, and larger corrections will develop there to actually confirm the run, and we might be bullish for the month or the quarter. So we'll see. And this can also serve as like an area where you might place your stops behind, or where we might tap into. So yeah, there are actually a lot of things that could currently happen on NASDAQ, and this is sort of like the forecasting process that you should go through, a rigorous testing of all possible scenarios that could play out, but they still fit your plan at the end of the day. So we'll see what this gets to be as time goes on, as time progresses, and the market provides us with more data to work with. So yeah, I think I'm gonna cut this one here, boys and girls, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Shout out.